Welcome to the Fusionary Health Podcast. So you guys are in for such a treat today. I have a very special guest, Gio, who's here to show us on mindset, on the ways we approach not just our health, but ourself, our bodies. And her program and what she teaches helps executives, professionals, entrepreneurs learn how to operate themselves better so we can operate our businesses and our life better. So I'm so excited to have Gio with us today. Welcome.
Hello.
So Gio, will you share with us what you're up to, how you got to where you are? I know we're going to dive into what you do, but first, this journey that led you here, will you briefly share with us, what are those elements that got you into doing what you do today?
So thank you for asking that, because that's certainly my story. I love sharing it because through that's where I drop little nuggets of wisdom and help you really address what we seek, which is the what, the how, the why, the what, all of that. And really my journey started 6 years ago when I lost my corporate job, and come to find out my identity was tied to that. I woke up one day and I wasn't happy and I didn't understand why. And with that came a lot of effects and consequences from a health perspective, from a mindset perspective. And so because I knew better that was not me, I really set out to find the answers to make myself back. Along the way, of course, encountered many obstacles and challenges. Yeah. That's why I say 6 years, but I finally figured it out. And that's why I'm here today, to really share with others in just those little pieces of information to keep going and to know yourself well, because there is a purpose and there is a gift that you have, that there's a reason why you're going through what you are.
Sure. Yeah. No, so many of us go through big transitions, big changes in our lives. And I know you've gone through many. And, we met many years ago as you were still starting the coaching business that you have. And I've seen it go through many different iterations and growth points, which is really cool. So will you share with us what you do now and how you support people?
Yes. So today I'm the founder of my own company, which is called Geo Balance. And how I brand myself is by Geo, the human factor. Because at the end of the day, that's what everyone needs to come back to. And what the human factor is there's 10 factors, which really all come back to self, with health and wellness being one of those. So think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Mm-hmm. It's embedded in there, as well as other things that I have found that I've helped myself. Sure. So today I went back to my passions, which it's not only health and wellness, that's a foundation of who I am, but my passions to go back and help business people overcome these challenges, which come back to them. Sure. So I found a platform that's called On-Call Executives, where we come into your business and help you with operational efficiencies through the human factor. And by melting both of those, I'm what I'm calling a consultant firm today that brings both the business consulting and the coaching all merged into one.
Nice. So many times, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur since, 2004. So almost 20 years. And on my entrepreneurial journey, the biggest thing I've learned is the more I invest in myself, the faster the business gets to go. And the moment it all goes too fast and I don't have the capacity, everything comes slowing down. And I can see it, I can feel the meltdown and the slowdown and the overwhelm and the inability to focus and the inefficiency. And then I look around again and I'm like, who needs to help me to build the capacity again? Because it's a new up-leveling. And we've seen that, in business over the years. Even Dell, whenever Michael Dell had to hire in a new layer of C-suite teams to manage the business, he would say, look, when we're taking it from 10 to 20 million, it's a different team. When we take it from 20 to 50, different team. 50 to 100, different team. Because you need the team who can see and support that new stage. So it sounds like that's what you're talking about.
That is exactly what I'm talking about. And specifically, I work with businesses that are at that $5 million threshold and can't seem to get over it.
Sure.
And you're right. In order to surpass that and open up and create momentum, you get to go back and look at your people because they have to evolve at the same time your business is evolving. So it's what I tell people is as we're growing up, the challenge that we face is to balance between heart and ego. Ego is a great thing. And it's about our self-value, but we have the tendency where our heart grows a little bit more than our self-worth and value, our ego, and that's where we get in trouble. But businesses are the same way. And entrepreneurs forget that being an entrepreneur is about a self journey. It comes from you versus working for a company or a corporate company where that template is already built out and you're supposed to follow it, which is where our identities kind of get misconstrued and we get in trouble because we get away from self.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually. And you're right, it is such a powerful self journey. And it's not an easy one. So can you share some examples of how you've supported people on this journey, what you've seen in terms of success stories with people? Because sometimes people will look at this conversation and say, I've got a good mindset. I've been to Tony Robbins conferences. I'm pretty good with my health. Let's dive into what are some tools that you use and what have you seen transform in people? So, because I find the stories illustrate best.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what I'm doing today. And what I see in business owners is that, and don't get me wrong, I approach you with your business because that way you're open to feedback and working on your business. But little do you know that I'm kind of coming back straight at you. And where I start, where I will tell people is that we find your self-saboteurs first. That is huge because what happens is we beat ourselves up so much along the way that I answer not the question of what's wrong with you, but what is right with you. And those are your self-saboteurs. And once you identify those, you see how you're constantly activating those on a daily basis when you think they're your strengths, which they can be, but there's some boundaries there. So a perfect example is a recent entrepreneur that I am working with, which has, believe it or not, over 20 businesses. So imagine the chaos and the organization that he has to do in order to manage all of these businesses. And so when we first approach his business, we start with, what are your priorities? What do you love about your life? How are you showing up intentional in feeding what buckets? And usually there is where the journey starts. And then the success comes in realizing that the way that they're behaving is in alignment with their self-saboteurs, and that's how they're getting in trouble. So if I could give anyone any tidbit here is go find out what your self-saboteurs are. And you can do that at the Positive Intelligence. I believe it's, positiveintelligence.com. And it's a free assessment, self-saboteurs. Take your top 3 out of the 9 that you get. And right there, it's just going to open up your mind and perspective. And you're going to go, oh, wow, I see why I do what I do. So I'm not going to beat myself up now. Now I'm just going to watch it, how I approach things to make sure that I'm not doing that and watch things change when you figure that out.
That's huge. My brain is kind of exploding as you're talking because in my mind, I do see that as an entrepreneur, the same things that drive you are the same things that kill you.
Yes.
And I feel it sometimes. Even this week, I kind of have been dealing with, you can call it a volcano. It's like a lot. There's just a lot happening between my kid and my other kid and my business. And I launched something cool this week while my kid is meeting 20 mayors, while the other one's developing a full body rash due to a virus. And you're just like, alrighty, while my other company's running, thank God one just runs beautifully and doesn't need me in it all the time. But balls are dropping in the fourth one because I'm not doing my follow-up on my doctors and leads. So it's just like, you're watching this and there's a voice in me that's like, you're not organized enough. You are not managing things right. You are not doing enough. Look at how much you waste your time. Look at how much you're on social media. You should be more efficient. There's a slave driver in me that's like, you should, even though the world can fall apart in any given week, you should be able to take it and manage it beautifully and still excel at the highest levels.
And I'm willing to bet that one of your top self-saboteurs is being a high achiever.
Sure.
So, because that's very common in entrepreneurs.
Sure.
And so when you think about being a high achiever, yes, it's a strength because you can tap into that inner strength to push through anything, put in the hours, get it all done.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's acting against you in the sense in that it's self-sabotaging. So at what point do you get to have the awareness going, I'm doing too much. Why am I doing too much? Oh, because I'm an overachiever and I'm trying to validate and acknowledge myself for either not getting to what I wanted to today. So I'm putting it somewhere else. And then you go, oh, okay. And then you stop.
Right.
And then you go, nope, not doing it.
Yeah. And I have built, like you said, a lot of tools in my toolkit where I looked at it and I was like, you know what? You're going to slow down. And there's no price for the slowdown. Just take the slowdown because you have to stay healthy through this. You have to stay sane through this. You have to ground your energy to get through this. And next week is a new week. And whatever balls you perceive as dropping, you will pick them up next week. And everyone will be fine. Everyone will be fine. And so it's just that shifting of mindset. It's not easy because you're really working against yourself, your own inner voices in a sense. But if we don't, and we constantly let what you're saying happen, that's where I find we're burning the candle at both ends. We're burning through our adrenals. We're damaging our own systems, our own gut health, our own endocrine health. And then everyone calls me as an Ayurvedic practitioner and they're like, I'm screwed. And I'm like, don't worry, we'll unpack it. So yeah, I love that you approach it from that standpoint of business with mindset.
Absolutely. And what I would say in addition to that is one of the things that I've learned is that we're all at some point within high achievers, also high energy.
Yeah.
And high energy, yes, is a strength, but again, also sabotages me. Why? Because I'm running at such a high level of energy endurance. You know, all of my hormones are kicking in, oxytocin's like bing, 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 you know, and everything else. Right. Now I catch myself at that high and I say, no. Bring it down, regulate your nervous system and try to maintain a neutrality because I also learned that at those very high intense speeds, I'm also doing damage to my health.
Sure.
What does that mean? I forget to eat. I go longer hours than I should. I forget to drink my water, right? It's our individual checklist that we have on a day-to-day that maintains our foundation of health, which is what I live and breathe by.
Sure. So you were sharing before we started today your 3 priorities and how they are such a powerful priority. And this podcast is Fusionary Health, where I love to dive into health. So will you share your priorities and why you did it that way?
Absolutely. So when you hear my priorities, people are a little puzzled. But again, there's no right or wrong. So my top priorities in order, number 1 is me. Number 2 is sleep. And number 3 is health. Yeah. That is my roadmap, my framework, my Bible. Call it whatever it is. Those are my non-negotiables. Now, under each of those, there are deliverables and checklists that I have. But I've been on this journey long enough that I know my body very well. I know what it needs to be at optimal performance. And I know when I'm off of that alignment.
Sure. So why sleep separate from health, which I think most people would ask. I already know the answer because I'm obsessed with sleep and health. But yes, please share.
Yeah. So I truly believe that, yes, sleep can be under health, but sleep deserves its own category away from health. Sleep, in my opinion, feeds health.
Correct.
It's the foundation. It's where everything starts. I mean, we could get into Ayurveda. What does sleep do? It goes through the process of detoxing your body, regeneration, so that you can start and do it all over again. So for me, sleep is a non-negotiable. Just like I'll say certain foods are a non-negotiable, and I'm sorry for anyone out there, but for example, I will not eat a hot dog. I will not eat Doritos. Yeah. But you know what? I'll go have my wine and amazing foods. But sleep is a non-negotiable. And so much that I track my sleep every night.
Nice.
I set boundaries where I do not take phone calls after a certain time.
Yep.
And people know that. Yeah. And also so much that I have it down so packed that I can look at a couple of days and what's been happening for my sleep, and I can tell you if I'm going to be getting sick or not. Sure. That's how intricate I am with it and how important it is, because sleep deprivation is like driving drunk behind the wheel of a car. Your cognitive awareness, alert, just is suffers. And then guess what? You go into that day and now your self-saboteurs are front and center. They beat yourself up and now you're in a cycle.
Yes.
That is just not good.
It's so true. It's so true. I've been tracking my sleep again because I could tell I needed to fix it. And there are certain days I wake up so tired. And so what am I going to do on those days? I'm going to caffeinate more. I'll forget to hydrate. Yesterday was one. I had horrible headaches due to dehydration. Eating, sometimes the food will get off that way. And then, of course, you're right. Your mindset towards your work, you're at like half pace, half production, which then causes its own cycle. Like you said, of, oh, I'm behind this week. Nothing is working. Well, really, if sleep was working, could everything else have been working?
Yes. And also, let's look at another side. What if you are getting your sleep and you've stuck to everything, but all of a sudden you wake up and you are tired? Sometimes as humans, we love to compound whatever's happening. So we go down this rabbit hole of, why am I tired?
Sure.
And we start to create these things. And next thing we know, it'll be extended for a couple hours, for a couple days. Sometimes we're just tired.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It doesn't mean our health is off or anything. And so just being aware and saying, I'm tired. There's no reason why. But you know what? Then that just means I get to start later today. I get to finish earlier. What am I going to do today to feed that tiredness that my body today's telling you?
Sure. Like, what do I need to do as a self-care act to resolve and move on? Yeah. So when you said self, and you talked about this earlier, there's these modalities that you approach with your clients. What are some of those modalities?
Yeah. So I break my on-call executives platform into 4 areas. Okay. One being workplace well-being. Another one being health and wellness all by itself because it merits that. Yeah. Another one, self-development. And the last one is what I call sales training and profiling. Now, it's not the sales that you think it is. It's how we interact with people on a day-to-day basis to understand who's your audience. Sure. And how do you interact with that person, because we are all buyers every day. We are all selling something every day. Sure. It's like asking you, would you like to go to lunch today after this? I'm selling to you, right? Sure. But those are the 4 areas. And how I've come up with those is honestly my last 6 years in journey. What I've done is I've compiled everything that I have put to work to get to where I am today, to become that person that I wanted to be again, that I had lost 6 years ago. And so I took all those things and I created this on-call executives. And those are the 4 categories.
Amazing. That's amazing. And we all need that. We all need self-development. We all, of course, need health and wellness to be on board. We all need those elements to come together. So yeah, that's amazing. So what are some other fun client examples that you have?
So this one is very interesting. And actually it's someone that I just signed as a client. They happen to be a CEO with their company out of Dubai. So nice. International, not a problem. And it's interesting because what I do is I spend some time with you. It usually takes about 3 or 4 interactions with me to really lock in what is the source. Sure. And with this client, it's a new adventure because the overarching umbrella of what I'm helping them with is more from an energetic perspective. Okay. So you're talking a CEO who is managing a $1 billion business. So you think he doesn't need help. Sure. Right? So in this case, I am his docking station. So what does that look like? My presence, my mind, and my energetics are going to interact with him in a way that I am keeping an eye out on the things that he can't see while he's able to take a break and elevate his own energetics and evolution so that he can get that 1% of, I guess, transformation, which the trickle down effect in his business is huge.
Sure.
So for the first time, I'm actually bringing energetics into my practice that is not necessarily, I guess, open in businesses. But what I do want to tell you is that I've learned to change the word from mental health to energy health.
Ooh.
Because we know that mental health has a stigma.
Sure.
But energy health is from the inside out.
Sure.
And we all have energy.
Absolutely.
In whatever way you want to call it. So for the first time, this is a little bit of my case study to say, how do I build something around these energetics of energy health in a CEO top level who didn't know that they also needed support and help. But yet this is where I am. So that's my latest one that I'm going to have fun with.
That's amazing. You know, you and I both went through an incredible program together called Priestess. And it was so incredible because it was truly this energy health. What a beautiful way to say it. It was spiritual work. It was deep work on holding our energy center. And I use it all the time. Like a lot of times when I cannot be present in my business, I do my morning meditation. Even I can be doing my morning meditation while I put makeup on, but I do my check-in with myself and I will energetically talk to my business and say, Fusionary, I've got you. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be working with you today, but you are held and you know what you're supposed to do to impact the world. Go ahead and do it. But I know how to like hold the space, almost like an energy ball for each thing that I do. A lot of times when I have people in my life who are little volcanoes erupting, I'll support them with light and energy. So it's so beautiful when we bring that element into business. We bring a lot of faith. We bring a lot of peace. We can bring a lot of the power that we hold as humans energetically to give our energy to our business and allow it to reciprocate. You know, so it's less of an ego game. What I built was to impact the world. The metrics around it will be fine. I have the faith that that will work. But what I get to do is energetically work on myself, keep myself at the highest vibrations, use good boundaries against energy vampires and things that don't support me, and then support that business to really grow into. I have no dreams of a $1 billion entity, but like grow into whatever it's meant to impact the most people. So I really love that you brought that in today.
Yeah. And again, it's about energetics, energy health, energetic health. And I give the perfect example. If we're sitting in a room and someone walks in, you know if they're in a bad mood or not. You feel it. Totally. So imagine if you feel that, what is it that you are feeling on a day-to-day basis and what are you putting out yourself? Which then in essence is a boomerang and comes back and hits you as well. Sure. So it's something that's really not talked about. And I think that that should take the forefront to the mental health title.
Sure.
Because that truly is a game changer.
You know, yes. And we are so multifaceted. I am a woman, a wife, a sister, a mother, an entrepreneur, CEO. There's all these hats we wear. And you're right. I never thought about it as a boomerang, but the energy that I create within myself and hold in any given day will impact all the areas of my life. And so one powerful topic is parenthood. As entrepreneurs, professionals, CEOs, whatever we are in our work life, whatever you're doing in your work, if you are losing on the parenthood home battle, there's no worse feeling that I know personally. And looking around at this current group of children out there, they're rampant with anxiety and panic attacks and stress. And I am just looking around like, what is happening? Or were we made of like stronger, like were we of the earth and stronger made in our generations? And we're only in our 40s. But what is it that's happening mentally? Is it the food? Are we just feeding them garbage and then their poor system is not meant to run on garbage? So it's interesting what you're saying, because sometimes I think if I'm just not the right, but the best energy center I can be, if my energy health is amazing, can I then lift the family and kind of resolve some of those issues that you see?
And the answer is yes. And how you do that is by removing all the noise around you, and not necessarily removing it, blocking it.
Sure.
Choosing for it not to affect you. One of the things that people sometimes ask me is, what actions have you taken that can help me take the same actions?
Sure.
And I tell people the number one is literally make up your mind to ... So make up your mind to what? And as soon as you make up that mind, that is the commitment. So I choose to be committed to not allowing outside noise to affect my energy and how I'm being.
Sure.
And I am extremely aware of that. And that's what I teach my clients, because at the end of the day, we control our experiences, we control our behaviors, and we just get to trust and be patient with the process as to wherever we're wanting to go.
You know what I find really cool about that, Gio? I've known you for years. You're one of those powerhouses. So the energy you hold is actually very strong. And my personality, I think I do hold great energy, but I'm also a people pleaser. Like, I know that there are certain aspects of me where I just want everyone happy. I'm a born diplomat. Like, I will make sure when I'm hosting 50 people, which happens all the time, that the dynamics are working beautifully, because to me, that dynamic matters more than anything. And it takes an evolution of self to finally say the dynamic matters more than anything, and I matter in the dynamic as well. But I find over the years I've reflected, I've always hired incredible coaches because sometimes they hold an energy that you want.
Yes.
Like, I remember when I met Mina Shah years ago, she was my coach for 5 years. I was like, I just want to have a piece of Mina. And so when you're speaking to me today about what you're talking about, I can see now why we work with certain coaches, because they hold elements or like lightning rods of energy within them that we want, and we might not necessarily know how to build in ourselves until we hold someone's hand.
And you just defined my magic, my gift, which is what I set out 6 years ago to find. And what is it? It's a Hebrew word, Shin, Shin, which is the light that Eve gave to Adam in order to activate his masculine energy.
Okay.
So I hold space for people to come into it to then elevate their own energetics.
Amazing.
I want to back up, Giovanni, really quick, because you said the people pleasing, and that's one of the top self-saboteurs that very common with people.
Sure.
And so it's not to beat yourself up about it, but also to understand also that as humans, we have the tendency to do more of what's easy for us.
Sure.
So even though your self-saboteur may be that you're a people pleaser, which, by the way, I have that as well too, it's understanding why you're doing the pleasing. Is it to validate and acknowledge? That's probably not the best. But it's also, what I know about you is that you love to create around people, special occasions, your birthday parties, your kids, the things that you put together, the love that you give to your business. That comes easy for you because that's your passion. So in that pleasing, it's okay.
Sure.
In the other one, to try to seek validation, that's where you're self-sabotaging yourself.
Sure. And if you catch it and you can hold the new line, like I learned it and I realized, wow, there's a lot of people for whom I do a lot of things. I don't need to do it. They're such capable adults. They can do all the things themselves. And I will get frustrated if I'm giving up all my time. And so now I've learned just to hold that line. So yes, I will people please in the area called parties and fun, because to me, that's creating an experience. Yes. Like, to me, a party is hope. It's like this moment of joy that you're creating amongst a group, versus if everyone asks me for everything all day, when do I get to do my work? That's not supportive. So yeah, it's very powerful work what you're talking about, because sometimes we just don't have those awarenesses. We have big blind spots, and those blind spots, as we grow, are even more damaging. I'm finding that this year we grew in my company 20%, which was awesome. And last year it was like 300%. So the growth is beautiful, but as you grow, you break things. You break systems, you have to like really forecast better or you end up in trouble. But because the pace is faster, you have less room for error because the errors will just be more expensive and more painful. And so to just take a few moments and work with you like a season could be very powerful because then you're addressing the same saboteurs that would hold you back all the way through till the end.
Correct. And what I would say with that, because you just started to sum this up, it's about things don't get easier because as you expand and evolve, you have the capacity for more.
Sure.
Which means bigger challenges, bigger obstacles. But if you set out and make your mind up to, right, commit to your own evolution, I don't like to call it work because work psychologically has a negative connotation when it lands in your mind. Commit to be intentional towards what you want. What's going to happen is, and I love to say this, that the challenges don't get easier, but getting over the challenges does get easier because now you know the process, now you know the mechanisms, now you know yourself, and always keeping to yourself those priorities and important buckets that fuel you to keep you going so that you can maintain that speed, velocity in which you're used to operating. So, and that would really, I think, be my biggest message that no, it doesn't get easier, but that's okay.
Right.
Because now we know how to work through those things to get to the greater things to grow our capacity.
True. And, you talk a lot about momentum and velocity and these things because once you build it, it feels incredible. Where I see issues come up is as people enter their decades of life, sometimes they haven't built almost like the health bucket, it's like you haven't invested in your health being top notch as you transition decade to decade. And so you almost get like a whiplash each decade, something new piles on. And then you have this pile up of health issues. And so to me, people come and they're tired, fatigued, brain fog, menopause, joint pain, autoimmune symptoms. Like it's a stack up. And my point is, guys, we're going to unpack this back to clean, but could we have in our 20s, 30s, and 40s put in the habits so that we wouldn't end up with this? Can we instead just show up prepared, like for a marathon with our health? So do you see that a lot where the physical is impacting the business?
Absolutely. And I think it just goes back to, look, I get it. Health is a big, overwhelming bucket, and it's customized, individualized to each person. But there are some basics that we get to learn in our 20s, and they're fundamentals: sleep, eating, right? Things of that sort, movement, things that can help you sustain as you're adding to these building blocks. So yes, after we get older and everything starts stacking up, then that's where you get someone who says, well, I don't even know where to start.
Sure.
This is overwhelming. I'm having all these big words thrown at me, all these different diets. Yeah. And that's where people get discouraged.
Sure.
So go back to the basics, go back to the fundamentals. It doesn't matter how simple they are, because with those simple fundamentals in health that we all teach and you teach, that's where you're going to start taking those small steps, which then will allow you to experience pleasure, which pleasure equals motivation.
Sure. It's a powerful reminder. In our 20s, we don't all learn everything is the issue. I grew up in an Indian household. I believe, I learned about the Indian diet. I learned certain things. I grew up vegetarian. And so there's certain rules and cultural, things, and our parents have certain things they were raised with that they use on us. And so a lot of times I meet people now who are like, I never exercised. I didn't have to. I was great. I could survive on coffee. I don't want to exercise. I'm like, I'm sorry, that's not a choice. Science has proven it's not a choice. Or you grew up in a house where ding-dongs and Oreos and all those things were normal, because why not eat a treat? I wasn't raised that way. I was raised in a diabetic household. And so I raised my kids according to that. Nowadays, we're learning about diet and how much the processed foods are a problem. So I'm trying to pull them back out of my kids' hands and adjust their diet to be whole and nourished. As an adult, it's harder to implement on myself the changes that I'm implementing on my own kids, because I want them to get protein and things. So I'm shifting the whole house. It's just interesting. The idea that we were taught well in our 20s, I think, is a fallacy, or in our childhood. I think we were taught a lot, but we're finding a lot of people in their 40s, 50s, 60s who are now looking at that teaching and saying, I didn't get the toolbox that I need now.
Yeah, and that's why I would tell people to make the investment on yourself.
Yeah.
Start that journey to figure out what is right for you, who you are, and what you need.
Sure.
Because it's not that I'm against diets out there and everything that's offered. I see them just as reference tools that you can just grab some things from to then come back to the center and individualize what is for you.
Sure.
So invest in yourself, your health, and go down that journey. And you don't have to do it yourself, because there's so many professionals out there doing it, to really define who you are, what you need, and how you're going to move forward. Make the investment.
Sure. No, it's very important. And we oftentimes don't invest in ourselves. We invest in a lot of other things: property, home, car, material goods and things, trips. I see a lot of investment. And to me, my first investment is always health. I prioritize that as the thing I spend on, even if I have no money left for travel or whatever else. To me, if I don't have my health, what was the point of the travel? And so I do think that when we are working with people who are in business, oftentimes you have to look at them and say, look, if we prioritize self first and health first, could we then win so big across the board that everything else gets easier?
You 100% will win, because there is no other choice. And we're going to go back to the 5 areas of life. Health is first, because everything else following it is a trickle effect of your health. And what is that? After health, you have your finances, your love and relationships, your career and calling, and then your connection to a higher power.
Sure.
Health is the centralized hub of all of that. It's where the effect and the trickle up or trickle down effect can happen.
Sure. It's our mindset. It's our mood. It's our joy. It's our energy that we bring to everything that we do. Yeah.
It is.
Beautiful. Well, I feel like we could talk about this all day, because this is by far my favorite topic, which is how do we bring the right mindset and the right mental approach towards our health. Is there anything else you want to share with us today? Any special client stories or anything you always share with your clients where you're like, this is a message I need to share today?
Yes. And it's really the lesson that I've learned throughout this 6-year journey. And that is, stay congruent to your story. Don't navigate away from it too much, because when you do, that's where things don't go well. We all have a story. We all have a source that it comes from. So stay congruent as an entrepreneur, as a mom, as self, because you're doing the things that you're doing today because of who you are. So take out all that noise around you, be who you need to be, who you are, and just stay congruent to that journey.
I love that. I love that message. Thank you. And where can people find you, Gio?
Yes. So very easy. My website, geobalance.com.
Easy.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Of course. It was a pleasure. It was an honor. Always here. Adore you. Love you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining me for this episode. Check out our sponsor, Fusionary Formulas, the potent turmeric supplement used by doctors around the U.S. for patients with pain and inflammation. www.fusionaryformulas.com. I'm your host, Dr. Shivani Gupta. For more, visit shivanigupta.com. Subscribe to this podcast in Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Click the follow button or subscribe in any of the apps that you use. That's all I've got for you on the Fusionary Health Podcast this week. You have the power to transform your health and achieve vibrant health starting today.